Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. Mod 19 has just been released on the preview server, and with it came the new trial, Zariel. You can see here I'm entering in with a group of 10 people as you do in a trial. 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 6 DPS. Currently I'm playing the Paladin healer with the new changes. With these new changes, you generally are just going to be the designated healer to keep the DPS alive. In that regard, you want to be using an AoE heal. So here I use Sheltering Light, since Divine Touch is not going to do much, especially when it splits between 10 targets. With the new ability to gain Critical Touch on Divine Touch, it makes it even more better, since you can guarantee a full shield on everybody, as long as you get that proc. Along with that, I'm using my Sacred Weapon and Circle of Divinity to get that Divinity regeneration increased. Anyway, with this new trial, there is a completely new boss and completely new mechanics to learn. You can see you initially fight her in phase 1 on this platform here. However, you will always be fighting on this platform, but the surroundings will look different as the whole platform gets teleported to the sky. You'll see later. Anyway, on this platform, on phase 1, you can't exactly walk off unless you jump off. And that changes when you get to phase 3. Anyway, the one difficult thing in this trial is that a lot of the mechanics are they're not preempted with a red AoE. So you have to make sure you know the signs for the mechanics and where they're going to go and where they're going to be. You can see that spawned a red AoE there, those sword portals, but you only have a split second, so you need to find out where they are before. You can see these lines that attach to you, they're the sword clusters. I didn't have my shield up in the right direction and I got smashed. I should have used a Stone of Health and I probably would have survived that. I run with about 500k HP, 200k power, and like 230k critical strike. This is to compensate for the reduced amount of incoming and outgoing healing. However, we did receive a 100 magnitude buff on our Divine Shelter, so that's pretty decent. You can see that mechanic just there. One of the tanks gets stunned, and then she essentially will attack that stun target unless her aggro is changed. That's the main tank mechanic. That along with phase 2, which is the most challenging part for a tank. Anyway, I'm not here to explain all the mechanics, just here to show you guys the general gist of the trial and what you can expect. I have made a document with all the mechanics listed that is up to and including phase 3. However, I still need to refine it, make sure all the damage values are correct, and things are ever changing on preview. When it hits live, things should get more static, and an overall guide will be much more helpful then, and you can be guaranteed that all of the information will be correct. You can see those areas there. They're just called Spreading Light, was also known as Daunting Light. Essentially, that's kind of a new base mechanic. They spawn on the area and then they spread out, continually pulsing. And that's the main mechanic of which you need to avoid. Since you get hit by one of those, you nearly get one shot, depending on how much HP you have left. Then you have a heal check, which is this hypothermia kind of thingy. It's called Scathing Light, where basically it pulses and you take damage over time. And you take more damage the less amount of people who's in the area. So you all want to stack up. You have, like Superstorm and Tower of the Mad Mage, you have a mechanic where it is called Weight of Virtue, which will target everybody. It does about 1 million base damage, and this is why you need like 400, 500k HP in the trial to be able to survive that. Especially since the Paladin shield is nerfed and you can't rely on that as much. Anyway, you get to 50% and she phases and you move on to phase 2. This is where Zariel's evil side appears and they start having a chat with each other, and basically the evil side wants to take over. Anyway, these two shades spawn, and essentially you need to burn down both of them and kill them before Zariel's hope is lost. Now every time those shades hit something, those orbs spawn. You can see them there next to the minimap, and they gradually make their way to the middle. When those orbs hit the middle, Zariel loses some hope, so you have a limited amount of time based on how many of those balls spawn. You can see whenever those shades use a tank buster, like in the second boss in IC, the tanks have to switch aggro because they gain a debuff where essentially that boss will do 4 times the amount of damage to them. So you have to switch, and whenever you take the tank buster again, you switch again. This is why it's the most challenging for the tanks. On top of that, you have a new target, and you have to main threat on that new target against 6 insane DPS. So you burn down one of them, finally kill it, and then things get easier, because the tanks can just switch and the other one stays behind. However, what you kind of want to do if you're the other tank is just absorb as many of those balls as you can. DPS one, you want to do it as well. However, you gain this debuff, whereupon you will take more damage for the next ball you take. It lasts for about 16 to 20 seconds, and then you can go and take more of the balls. Meantime, as the healer, I'm just using Sheltering Light. Whenever people's shields drop lower, I have to continually maintain my divinity and not spam my heals. If I spam my heals, I won't have any divinity left, and I won't be able to heal when I need to heal. So yeah, you just burn down this final shade, the tanks continually switching the aggro, DPS continually taking the balls so Zariel doesn't lose hope, and then we all die. And there we go, we nearly have him burnt completely down. We still have most of our DPS alive. My skull that I got in phase 1 from my stupid death has expired, so that's looking good. However, it now goes on to phase 3. Zariel's HP goes back to 100%. And essentially she speaks to you, and then she does another Weight of Virtue, where everybody takes a load of damage, and you want to make sure you have all your debuffs nicely set for that. Here's that Weight of Virtue. She will say it in the chat there, you can see, before she does it all the time. And she does 2 back to back in the beginning of phase 3. And these red AoEs, they're like in Tower of the Mad Mage, you want to just spread them apart. And that's the tank buster again, you can see there. And my job, I'm mainly just designated to heal the DPS. If the tanks get damaged and are nearly dying, that is up to the Warlock healer, as you can see there. They have this very powerful at-will, where they can easily heal them over time, the same with their channel. With the Paladin it's a lot more clunky, and I need to save my divinity to make sure the DPS gets shielded. So yeah, with these new changes, Paladin healing is a tad boring. However, with all these new mechanics, you can definitely entertain yourself by, trying not to die. This is kind of a fun mechanic here, where essentially you just need to rotate with all these portals as they fire. You just rotate. The closer you are to the middle, obviously the quicker it is you can walk. So you just want to balance that out so you don't get left behind or walk too quickly and walk into it. I'm just refreshing my food, since that skull, I believe, removed my watermelon, so that I get that 20k more power. Okay, so now we have this new mechanic, which are these runes. You need to put one person on each before they all erupt, and everybody takes a ton of damage. You can see there we all took a load of damage. If somebody was missing from one of the runes, we'd all have just died there. You can see there we have Daunting Lights again. This time we have 2 of them, and they're in a cluster of 8, and they all spread out. I have a cluster. I need to make sure I move to the side and not get hit by those Dauntings, which I did. and then I got smashed by the cluster, which was behind me. And then we have Hypo again, or Scathing Light. I like to use my Sanctuary to keep them healed. However, if DPS move out of that Hypo, everybody just ends up dying. And I believe we're just gonna wipe here. So, yeah, we see 8 runes this time. Anyway, that's everything for this video. We got about this far, and then we all wiped. So, yeah, see you in the next one.